Hey guys, what's poppin'? Jacques Slade here, and this is the Google Pixel 2 XL. I know I'm probably not supposed to say this right off the jump when you do a review of something, but I really like this phone. Okay, before we get into this review, let's do a few quick house cleaning sort of things. First, this is the XL model, so there's a regular version of the Pixel 2 as well. The regular version will cost you $650, while the XL will cost you $850, which is a $200 premium. I personally selected the XL because I've been using larger phones for the last few years, and honestly, it just feels more comfortable in the hand to me. On the spec side of things, both the regular Pixel and the XL are exactly the same as far as the internals go. The biggest difference between the two is the screen size, the type, and the resolution. The normal Pixel is HD at 1920 by 1080, while the XL is a quad HD screen at 2885 by 1440. Number two, this is not going to be a long review on every single part of the phone. If you want something along those lines, there's definitely videos out there that cover that. But this is more from the perspective of someone who uses the phone just as a regular person would. I do a little bit of business stuff, which is like creating YouTube videos and taking pictures, and then for my personal life as well. So with that being said, this is my Google Pixel 2 review from the perspective of a guy that really likes sneakers. All right, let's start with the camera. And before we even really get into the characteristics of the camera, just know that most modern smartphones are able to shoot really great pictures. As far as the Pixel 2 goes, it has a 12.2 megapixel camera on the back with a 1.8 aperture, and it shoots some really great photos, just as you would expect. Unlike most modern phones that are out these days, Google opted for one camera instead of two. However, it's still able to produce that same sort of, I guess they call it a portrait effect that you get on other phones. This effect essentially chooses a foreground subject and blurs out the background, making the picture look like it was taken with a larger, more professional type of camera. From my experience, this camera was able to distinguish the foreground objects pretty well, though it is not perfect at all. Here are a few shots of the Off-White Vapor Max, and you can see how it misses some of the details at the toe of the shoe. However, if you do want to take some sneaker shots with this phone and have your friends think that you have a very fancy camera, this would definitely do the trick. I think it works better with actual faces than it does with objects, but that's just from my experience with it. Now, this feature works with both the front and the rear facing camera, so if you're into selfies, that front facing camera can give you that same sort of look. In addition to the portrait mode, Google added some cool augmented reality stickers. They basically allow you to drop objects directly into your world through the lens of your cell phone. I'm not sure how often this is something that I would actually use, but it is something fun to play with. I played with it a little bit with my nieces and they really liked it. And the last big feature for me for the camera was the ability to look up items. It's technically called Google Lens, and it lets you look up things based on just a picture of them. So say you have a picture of a camera or take a picture of a camera, it will recognize that it's a camera. Now, it's not good enough where it'll recognize what model that camera is right away, but it does recognize text well enough that it will pull text off of the camera. For instance, here's a picture of my Panasonic GH5, and as you can see, it selected GH5 Lumix, and it also selected out the name of the lens, Lexia, and it allows you to search based on that criteria, which is pretty good, which will help you narrow things down. Now, this works a lot better with things like landmarks, books, album artwork, and as you can see, it responds pretty well to my Thriller album or the book Confederacy of Dunces. Video-wise, the footage looks pretty good, and you can record up to 4K 30 frames per second. It also has some high-speed features with 120 frames per second, and there is another at 240 frames per second. To be honest, I didn't really mess with these a lot, although I did shoot some night footage just to see what it would look like, and it looks okay. It's definitely noisy, but still usable for something that you're going to use on the internet. For it to be dark outside, this is actually pretty good and shows you how far cell phones have come in the year 2017. All right, next up is the actual phone itself. The phone has a 6-inch screen with glass on the front, and then there's aluminum on the back. Well, there's also glass on the back as well, but the majority of the back is actually made out of aluminum. The aluminum part has this strange like texture coating on it, and I imagine that it was put there to give the phone more grip, so it's more grippy in your hand, but instead it kind of just makes the back feel like it's made out of plastic. Now, that isn't a knock against it, that's just the way it feels. Overall, the look of the phone is clean, and the glass front looks really nice, and then the look of the double materials on the back, the glass and aluminum, that looks really nice as well, especially when it's two-toned. The phone has two front-facing speakers that sound good. They are cell phone speakers, so honestly, I don't expect much from them. As long as they're not terrible, I'm fine fine and don't really judge a phone too much by the quality of the speakers. They are loud enough to hear in a moderately loud room, and they are pretty even in regards to the lace of the bass and the treble, so I give them a pass. They're okay. The phone also has USB connectors on the bottom and a fingerprint reader on the rear, which is really fast. You literally tap it and it gives you feedback and you are in. I would say it takes less than a half a second for all of that to happen. It's really nice. I didn't think that having the reader on the back would be as convenient as having it on the front, but it really is just as comfortable as having it on the front, and you get used to it really quickly. Now, one thing that is noticeably missing is a headphone jack. Now, I know the world is moving towards having everything wireless, but I'm still not ready when it comes to the headphone. Apple decided to take it away, and now everyone is following suit, Google included. Look, I get why they are doing it, but I still do not agree. As The Verge put it, I think it's very, very hostile towards the consumer and not the time for that to happen yet. But again, who am I? Now, on top of not including a headphone jack, Google took it a step farther and didn't even include headphones in the box. That's not cool at all, Google. I mean, well, they did include an adapter, so you could use your own headphones, but that just doesn't make up for it for me. And from what I understand, the removal of the headphone jack helps to make the phone more water resistant. So if that's something you're into, bonus for you. Like with the camera, I really feel it's the software that makes the Google Pixel 2 shine. It is stock Android, which is good in my opinion. It's straight from Google, and then that also means you'll be the first to get updates, and you'll have the most current version of the software. With 90% of the other Android phones out there, that isn't necessarily the case, so this is a big deal for me. The one feature of the software that I did find myself using more than anything though, it's the squeeze feature, well, basically Google Assistant. Like most people, I thought it was a gimmick, and it turned out to be really useful. Basically, you squeeze your phone near the bottom and you can adjust the sensitivity, and you're automatically kicked into the Google Assistant. If you have Google Assistant, you know how good and how useful it can be. You can ask it anything from how old is Kyrie Irving to the weather for the day to the current price of a Bitcoin if you're into that sort of thing. You can set timers, and it can work with your travel and play music, and it does all sorts of things. I found that I used it more than I expected. It's just one of those things that you don't know you will use until you actually start to use it, if that makes sense. If I had to personally choose between Siri, Google, and Bixby at this point, Google is definitely the way to go. It's honestly just a lot smarter at this point in time. Another cool feature of the Pixel 2 is the always on screen. Now, this isn't a big deal. It just has simple information like time, date, and a few of your alerts, but having it always on and not requiring you to actually pick up your phone, again, not a huge game changer, but a little something extra that makes your life just a little bit easier. And since we're talking about the screen, there is a bit of a weird color shift when you move the phone off axis on the XL. Now, it isn't something that most people will even notice unless you're looking for it and the screen is on a brighter color, but it does still kind of suck for a phone to have these kind of issues in 2017. All right, moving on to battery life, which is something we all care about. The Google Pixel 2 XL has a 3,520 milliamp battery. That should get you through an entire day with regular use. Of course, if you are streaming content or constantly checking your social media apps, that battery life is going to be impacted, but overall, it will last you throughout the day. And while we're talking about the Pixel 2 battery, it comes with a USB-C cable and an 18-watt charger. Now, that charger allows for quick charging, which should give you a significant boost in battery time with just 15 minutes of charging. And speaking of charging, you can't use wireless charging with the Pixel XL, which isn't a deal breaker for me since I have yet to use it enough for it to really make a difference in the way that I operate. Looking at the phone overall, it's quick, it's snappy, it's fast. Android is easy to use and works well with all of your favorite apps. The camera's incredible, the portrait mode looks great, the 4K looks nice, the slow-mo looks nice, the Google Assistant is really good, and the squeeze feature is something you just didn't know you would want to use, but I believe you will. Overall, I say it's a really great phone, and if you're in the market for a new Android phone, it's hard not to recommend the Google Pixel 2 or XL. Really, it comes down to a couple things in my mind. One, whether you want the big XL or you want a regular size phone, or whether or not you want to use iOS or Android. Outside of that, I don't think you're going to find a better phone in 2017 than the Pixel 2. Whether you are a creative or you work at an office or you're a student, a soccer mom, the Pixel 2 literally has everything that you need. So I'm Jacques Slade. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is my review of the Google Pixel 2 XL. Make sure you leave a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think about the Google Pixel 2 XL and what you guys think about this style of video. As always, guys, I appreciate you, and I'll see you soon. Peace.